Hello, Screen Junkies News. We're here to discuss the Kong Skull Island after credit scene, which opened up the world of Godzilla into Kong Skull Island.
Right?
Spoiler alert.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Well, if they're watching a video called After Credit Scene, then they should know.
I was, now that we've done the spoiler, I was most annoyed that the credits ruined it before the after credit scene.
Yes.
Were you reading the credits?
Yeah, I read the credits.
Yes.
It's like Godzilla, Rodan, all property of Toho.
It's thousands of craftsmen, laborers that put thousands of man hours. Of course I read the credits.
I had sat through a 2-hour movie. I had to pee to distract myself from the fact that I had to pee.
They told us to sit, and I was like, all right, I'm going to sit.
Until we got the after credit, but I did not read the credits.
Well,
yes,
guys,
it spoiled it in the credits.
Sorry. So which ones are they confirming? We know Rodan's coming back. Mothra.
King Ghidorah. And Godzilla.
And we heard the Godzilla roar.
That's right.
At the end of it.
So look,
can you do your Godzilla
None of us are huge Godzilla. We don't know the canon. Roth knows a little bit more than us, but we don't know as much as we're all trying to learn this together, because Godzilla is a pretty big thing. There's like 28 films.
Yeah, Godzilla. Here's the thing about Godzilla. There's so many different iterations of Godzilla. The first movie, Godzilla Gojira, is everybody knows this, is like a metaphor for atomic war, and it was a more serious and a really great film.
Yeah.
And there was an American remake, Godzilla King of the Monsters, and that's what the sequel to the Godzilla 2014 movie is called, but it's going to be very different because they basically took the images from Gojira and then remade it and added, like, shot some new stuff in like Burbank, and you can seriously
the birth of Power Rangers.
Yeah, it was
it was Gojira, and then Raymond Burr would come on screen and be like, look at this destruction behind us, and then it would just go back to Gojira.
I wish I could do like Most Extreme Elimination Challenge, Power Rangers, all these things that take the footage and then reshoot things.
And it was amazing because you can totally see that, like, he's in an office in Burbank shooting this thing, and it's awesome. Yeah. But then Godzilla, I mean, as the franchise evolves, it does go to some very fun, some would say, like myself, but very silly places.
They're weird. Can I just say they're weird? They're super weird.
Let's go through the ones that we've announced,
He gets a son, Manila. It's very weird.
So which ones do we queue up the ones we have here, Ross?
So the ones that they have confirmed by showing them at the end of this movie is, again, you hear Godzilla, you see Godzilla fight King Ghidorah, you see Rodan.
This is what we saw in the movie. But this is King Ghidorah, the three-headed dragon thing.
Yes.
Are they called dragons? Do we know?
They're kaiju,
they're like
right?
Kaiju. I mean, they're all monsters.
Kaiju is the better term. I don't want to be a monsterist.
Mothra and Rodan. And so
there's
Mothra.
the Mothra.
Now, Mothra is the one that generally most people know.
He has fairies, I
think he does. And Mothra, I think, is the most popular. Listen, if they're doing...
I have to watch Mothra because I learned this as we were prepping for the show. It sounds fascinating.
I think you're right that Mothra probably is the most well-known other than Godzilla, right? And
to the layman.
Right? So,
and then Rodan was the other one, right? That's Rodan.
And that's Rodan.
Yes.
And then what's interesting is that there's this movie called Destroy All Monsters, which is like this big monster mash with all the monsters. And I don't think that
it's like the Avengers of the monsters.
It's the Avengers of the monsters. And I don't think that
the Justice League, if you're,
sure. They're destroying cities, and
it's awesome.
Yes.
I would watch that movie. Yeah.
You should watch the film. I would suggest it.
They're so big.
It's all very campy and silly, and that's what I'm saying is, like, one of the things that I think Gareth Edwards, this is a totally different topic in a way, Gareth Edwards' film, oddly enough, captured was the different tones of Godzilla, because even when you had some of those moments that were more funny, because they were via like a newscast or something like that, and they just ended up being funny as he stomps through these different areas, it is capturing in a way the different tones of Godzilla. So in a way, it does a really good job of that.
Well, let's talk about the end credit scene, because they reveal this with Corey Hawkins' character.
Cave paintings, kind of.
Yes, reveals, what's the group called?
Monarch.
It's been tracking these things.
So let's talk about this credit scene, because I was confused.
Yeah.
Corey Hawkins seems like he just came into John Goodman's thing. I guess he's learning suddenly that, just trying to explain the scene, he's sort of learning that Monarch has actually known there's much more to it. Did John Goodman's character, do we understand?
He did, because remember that it's when Sam Jackson sits him down at gunpoint and
he was
says,
looking
like,
for proof.
you knew that there was something here, and he's like, yeah, we knew. We just were coming here to bring proof back because, you know, we need to be ready for this.
Well, here's the thing. He's there with Tom Hiddleston's character, James Conrad, Brie Larson's character, Mason Weaver. Corey Hawkins comes in and says, yeah, well, King Kong is king on Skull Island, but there are other kings.
Yeah.
And then they show the images of the cave paintings of these other monsters, sort of setting up, I think, because you do hear Godzilla, not necessarily the sequel to King Kong, but actually the next Godzilla movie, which brings up a couple of interesting questions. Now, that movie is being cast right now. That movie is also called Godzilla King of the Monsters, which if we're taking that end credit sequence, if they're saying he's King of the Monsters, in this context, it's not this throwback movie to King of the Monsters, which was just the remake of Gojira. It's there are other monsters, and he's the king of the kings, and so they're going to come together, right? This movie is now being cast. It's got Kyle Chandler, Vera Farmiga, and Millie Bobby Brown.
Stranger Things, 11.
Yeah.
11.
But my question for us...
Right.
It's a good cast, Kyle.
It's a great cast.
It's a great cast.
I think it's
hey,
not
look,
going to
Kong
be.
Skull Island had a good cast too, though.
Yeah, it's true. It's not going to. It's not going to be set in the past. I don't think. I think it's going to be set.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
It's going to be set because they had a line.
How do we know that?
They had a line in. They had a line. I'm going to posit that it will be set in current day, and that the King Kong. I will further posit that King Kong versus Godzilla will also be set in current day because they set it up in this movie. They said he's still growing.
Yes.
They said King Kong is young.
When did they say that?
They said Kong is young, but he's still growing. They said that. I forget. At some point in the movie, they said that he was still growing, which to me is
that needs to happen.
Is them laying the seed for, hey, it's the people that have been saying, like, how can King Kong fight Godzilla if he's like, they were laying the seeds for, well, he's going to have 40 years to grow.
Well, he's not going to be able to fit on that island if he grows as the Godzilla size.
Okay. This is what I think is going to happen. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Here's what I propose. Because that was an end credit scene of Kong, because it had these characters indicating now we're going to go look for these monsters, because the next movie is called Godzilla King of the Monsters. If there is an all-out monster attack on various cities, right? Mm-hmm. That has to happen after the 2014 Godzilla when the world is aware of Godzilla. But I don't think that's what happens. I think that like in Kong, which remained isolated, unlike the other Kong movies, remained isolated on an island, that this will also be a sequel to Kong, but still a prequel to the 2014 Godzilla. And this will be isolated monster islands, right?
That's what they were saying. There was more islands.
They will either fight each other and or the humans will discover these different monsters. Then the next movie, Godzilla vs. King Kong, will bring us back up to date, in which
with a fully grown Kong.
With a fully grown Kong, who will then have to fight Godzilla. That's what I propose.
Why would they fight, though? They seem like they would be friends.
You feel like they would be good friends?
I feel like they would be friends.
I'm not sure why they fight, other than I want to see it.
I feel like it's good. I think they're going to pull a WB. Oh, WB's doing these movies. I think they're going to repeat history and have them fight briefly, but then team up in the end against a common enemy.
Yes.
Perhaps. So that's what for me it would be. The enemy that they would team up against would be these three monsters. So I don't know why they're making the Godzilla King of the Monsters movie before. Just jump right to Kong.
To introduce you to to monsters.
Well,
I think
you
that's
can put
why.
the monsters in the Godzilla King Kong movie.
I think they're going to introduce you to the monsters.
Because if Godzilla doesn't kill the monsters, then it's kind of a waste of a movie, right?
Do we want to see this group come back, Hiddleston and Brie Larson come back to find other monster islands? Because I don't.
No, not really.
It's sort of the end credit scene sort of frustrated me in a way, where it was like, okay, great. So now we're setting up that we're going monster island hopping with these sort of idiots who didn't really figure out anything the last time.
Yeah.
It just felt like we got to. Oh, don't worry, more monsters are coming. So let's just connect it loosely like this. It felt very lazy to me in a way, where it was like we sort of knew this was already coming. Why couldn't we have? I just think there could have been a more creative way to do it. And my other problem is, yes, you're laying out a good thing. I'm fine with it, but I don't want another period movie. I want to go forward. Yeah. Okay, great. This was the Kong prequel. Great. Let's focus on the monsters then for a couple, and then we have to figure out a way to bring fully grown Kong to take out Godzilla. Is I guess where we're heading.
Yes.
That
well,
I'm into that.
Going to take out Godzilla, but they'll definitely.
Well, but so they think.
Tussle.
Yeah.
So they think because he's killed all the skull things.
Yeah. All the lizards.
All the lizards.
The skull crawlers.
But this idea. I mean, but do you agree? As more of a, you're a little bit more of a fan of this franchise than us, of this in history. Do you agree though that these characters, the idea of these characters coming back to do this, does that excite you?
Yes, but I mean, I
human
think,
characters.
Oh, the human characters. No,
Sorry.
I don't care who the humans are. And clearly, those aren't going to be the main humans because they're casting other humans, right? So
we don't know what time they're in either.
We don't know what time. This is me speculating that this will still be before the 2014 Godzilla because otherwise the whole world knows about it. And I don't see why you would do a movie that the whole world knows about all of these other monsters and then do Kong versus Godzilla. That doesn't make any sense to me. So I feel like this movie is simply to introduce a world of people that probably aren't familiar with these other monsters.
Could Vera Farmiga be like an older Brie Larson?
Potentially, that's it. But then she's a
I'm
lot
trying to figure
older.
out. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Trying to think if they're going to age one of these people to sort of, because it's you'd think one of them would have to be, older, and some other actor portraying them. Twist, right?
Yeah. You mean if we set it more in modern times?
Correct.
Yeah.
Like there's someone in the Godzilla current timeline that was back in that day.
Sure, but if she was that age in I mean, how old would she be now?
So, yeah, we'd have to do quick math.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not good at math. I don't know. I was told there'd be no math. I believe
yeah, she'd be much older.
Much older.
Yeah.
I still think that King Kong vs. Godzilla is going to be set in current day. I think they always figure out a way to make them fight. There's always a reason for King Kong and
Kong
Godzilla.
versus
I figured some
Godzilla.
radiation was going to hit Kong, and then that would have been a cooler end. Like, what is this nuclear waste I'm stepping into? I would have been more into that.
Kong versus Godzilla is I think that definitely will be set in modern day. But the other movie, the first one,
Which one do you want to come out first?
Well, it doesn't matter what I want because they're releasing Godzilla.
No, I'm
King
sorry.
of
Which of these
Monsters.
monsters do you want to see Godzilla tackle first? Is what sorry, I didn't ask that clearly. Rodan, Mothra,
King Ghidorah.
or King Ghidorah. Which one do we think is going to be? I think King Ghidorah is the coolest.
Yeah. Ghidorah is the coolest
That's
monster,
your finale,
but I honestly think, that's your finale. I don't know if it's that the movie is going to trace the people going to these different islands and finding the monsters, or if the monsters are going to be interacting together, because you're right, Dan, like you can't blow it on Godzilla having a huge monster, like a 4-way monster fight, and then have your follow-up just be him fighting Kong. That doesn't make any sense to me. So I really don't know that Godzilla, is going to be fighting these monsters or if they're going to be discovering these monsters.
Then I will be a very disappointed fan if they're just like, I'm Mothra. Bye. Like, I'm thinking about Godzilla and a Mothra in a movie. I want to see
I don't think Mothra
franchise.
can sustain his own movie.
Yeah, they got. I not that I don't love Mothra, but I don't want to see like Mothra the movie. I would want to see Godzilla fighting Mothra. That would be very nice. And if it does take place in the past, I will say that whomever watches these fights between Godzilla and these monsters should be commended on being tight-lipped for not telling anybody in the pursuing 20 years, because everyone seemed very surprised to see Godzilla.
Well, we're going to see a monster fight, but is it going to just be a Godzilla doing a beatdown?
I didn't like that end credit scene in the past. It felt too forced on of like, oh, all these, because exactly, Godzilla came out and sort of surprised everybody.
Yeah.
And they did not feel connected. We need to do a rewatch, I guess, to see if there was more Monarch stuff in the new Godzilla that plays back to it. It just felt very shorn in. But look, I think the idea of Kong versus Godzilla brewing too is definitely something I'm excited about. We all are, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
As long as he grows to a bigger size.
I think no matter what in this next movie, you're going to see a lot of monster fights. They're not going to give you the movie and just like sail by the monster.
But
whoever
King
they're
Kong
fighting.
was never made to be a franchise. King Kong was always sort of they've redone it several times, but Godzilla was the franchise. King Kong was always sort of a monster that was a one-off thing. So it's interesting how they're trying to do this, but it almost feels strange that they went Kong so fast.
Yeah, the Kong franchise
that could have come up with us later. Why didn't we just get a Godzilla sequel first, and then maybe Kong came in? I don't know. It's weird.
Seems a bit
Warner
haphazard,
Brothers,
but I hope
doing a
that
franchise is a little haphazard.
I hope that they get the time to get it on the right page, because I would have liked Kong movie, Godzilla movie, Kong versus Godzilla movie. We have an extra Godzilla movie. All right, fine. Let's see what they do.
It's
Well,
like
Gareth
they're forming
Edwards.
a league, sort of rushing to form a league. I said it.
I think it's the opposite. I think there's one extraneous movie in there. I think they're doing an extra. I don't think you need a Godzilla sequel. I think you could jump right to Kong versus Godzilla, and I'd be a very happy camper. But that
would have been a fantastic trilogy.
Kong, Godzilla, Kong versus Godzilla,
So you don't
and
want
all
to
the
see these
monsters
other
come in.
monsters.
And not that I don't want to see it. I just think it's just getting a little muddled, and I think that you don't want
Especially
it to
done
unravel.
seriously. It's like, how many times can you do this monster movie seriously?
Right.
Where Mothra is now flying in.
Exactly.
Well, that's what happened to the Godzilla franchise previously, and then you get Manila.
It seemed like they had a good Godzilla, had a good
fun.
Kong start, and now let's combine them all. Let's have them all fight all the monsters. Woohoo! If that works, you can find more monsters for them to make. You know
Fingers
what I mean?
crossed.
Look,
But we'll see.
I hope it
What
works.
do you guys
just
want
make
to
fun
see?
monster fights.
Yes.
Just make fun monster fights.
What did you think of the end credit scene, and what other monster battles do you want to see? Tell us in the comments below, and please click over here for more Screen Junkies news. Bye bye.